G'day viewers, and welcome again to Jen and Phil in the Philippines, or Phil and Jen in the Philippines. The subject today is the adventure we went on as far as building a house, our first house in the Philippines. And just before we start, a little bit of artwork at the back is by a local artist, so we're not completely devoid of culture here. It's an oil or on canvas that we bought. Where did we buy that one?
In Davao.
In Davao, off a local artist, and I saw the painting and
you fall in love with it.
I fell in love with it, and anyway, it ended up in the house, and it was one of the things we bought to do Maggetti. Right, building our first house. One of the things about building a house here was before Jen and I left Thailand, and we were getting serious as far as the relationship went, and because of our age difference, I made a pledge to Jen that I would build her a house. I didn't know quite where or when or whatever, but if anything ever happened to me, because there was kids involved, I would, and I gave her my word that I'd build a house or buy a house that, as I said, if anything happened, there was a roof over her head for the rest of her life. Anyway, we moved to the Philippines, back to the Philippines from Thailand. And we were living in General Santos, and we were living in Camellia, weren't we?
Yeah, Camellia Homes, yeah.
And tell the viewers a little bit about Camellia and the standard that it is.
Yeah, well, Camellia Homes is like a private subdivision, like for the middle class.
Yeah, middle class, upper class. A lot of expats live in Camellia Homes, and Camellia Homes is found all over the Philippines. And we happened to be renting a small house there, and what had happened was we had the land, and the family were out at Mindanao, and I'll put a map up just to give you an idea of the distance between.
Yeah, it's 2 hours drive.
Yeah, it's actually I think it's about 2 hours, 15
near the
minutes.
coast, yeah.
And you follow the coast road down from General Santos going south-west.
Yeah.
But you'll see that on the map anyway. And that's where our land was, and I believe for those who follow our videos, we went through the situation of when we filled in that piece of land that was given to Jen by her father, which was right on the coast, right
on the water.
Yeah, right on the water. And after we'd finished filling it in, because it was an old tilapia pond, and it really was swamp when we first saw it, and we got to work on it, and we filled this land in. And again, with previous videos, before we started the house, we actually started our first business, and there's a video on that as well. So we had the business working off this rather decent piece of property that was right on the water, and we decided, because we'd built the processing factory on the water, and we had to because the boats had to come up to the processing area, more through good luck than anything, we're only left with a piece of land that came further back from the water itself and closer to the access road. So that was the particular area we had, and we'd cleared to build the house on. So the next decision, and people often say, what are the good things about the Philippines as far as I'm concerned, and building this house was one of, even though it's difficult, was one of the big decisions and one of the adventures that I had here in the Philippines, and an event I'll never forget through various reasons. What was our first decision as far as building a house was concerned? Well, first of all, we were going to buy a house, weren't we? And we looked at Camellia and places like that.
We looked for so many apartments, and then we were considering the location, and of course the price.
Yeah.
Yes, and then until you decided that you wanted to be closer to the family.
Yeah, I decided that. I was all enthusiastic, and we were getting along well with the family.
And plus, because I have a land there, we have a land there already, so we don't need to spend extra to buy a land.
So that was one of the decisions made, and I'm literally, even though I spent a lot of time in cities in Australia and whatever, I was a country boy at heart, and the relative isolation wasn't going to affect me. So, and it really is a Westerner's dream. Here are swaying palm trees on a beach and crystal clear water, and it was the fantasy come true that a lot of expats think about when they think of tropical places in Asia and whatever, and it was picture perfect, to say the least.
Yes.
So it just so happened that Jen had this piece of land. And as I said, we filled it in and we're ready to go. So we made a decision that we couldn't really find anything that suited us in General
Yeah.
Santos. And we weren't really 100% happy with General Santos. It's an industrial...
It's just a city, yeah.
It's a city and it's industrial and it's dirty and it's noisy and...
Not really dirty. It's not really dirty.
Well, it's not, no, but
It's hot.
dusty and hot,
Dusty.
you know. So anyway,
Yes, because General Santos is sitting under the volcano.
oh, that's true too, yeah.
It's very close to the volcano.
Even just mentioning the volcanoes and whatever, we are in the Ring of Fire through Asia, and the Philippines is subject to a number of natural type disasters if it ever occurs. Simply being an archipelago and being in the Ring of Fire, it is very earthquake prone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of earthquakes here, on varying levels, and it's not an unusual occurrence to have a tremor. And of course, we've got active volcanoes. And one of those volcanoes, what's the name of the volcano down there?
Mount Matutu.
Mount Matutu. And you can see it in the distance if you ever go to General Santos, and it's rather an impressive sight.
Yeah, it's really a perfect cone.
Yeah, it's a cone volcano. So, and this sounds like we're listing all the things not to come here for, but it's one of those situations where people are used to it and it's just a fact of life and it's nothing to really concern yourself about. The volcano hasn't erupted for well over 100 years. But anyway, so we decided, after looking around General Santos, there really wasn't anything that tickled our fancy. So we decided we'd go down and possibly build on this block of land. But as I said, we started the business first. The business was rocking along, and me not being a speaker of any description at that stage of the game, I was a little bit isolated and a little bit bored, and I wasn't directly involved in the business on a day-to-day basis. So I had nothing to do. So I came up with the idea, we'll start this house, and very enthusiastically, and we sat down and tried to decide what type of house we wanted. We had, coming from Thailand, I had this thing about Thai housing. They're made of teak, and the traditional Thai houses, similar to the Balinese houses, are fabulous architectural features. Have fabulous architectural features, and they're cool and they're native. And again,
and it really...
it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I saw a lot of those, and it was my dream to imitate that where I could afford to do it, of course. And I thought I could do it in the Philippines, but that turned out to be not possible.
Yeah, timber wasn't available that time.
Yeah. Jen probably knows more about the timber situation over there. I just found it impossible to buy timber, and that was something I didn't imagine, because Asia has timber.
It's a controlled.
And there was
timber.
there was a lot
of so many illegal loggings and all these.
So it's difficult to get hold of, and they have a softwood over there, Gimelina, but it's not. Unlike teak, it's a hard wood. You do have a termite problem over there, so okay, we just couldn't get the timber. So the next thing was, we actually we looked at those kit houses.
Yeah.
Remember the kit houses in Thailand? Thailand produced kit houses of these traditional Thai houses, and so we actively looked into that, but it became unfeasible or infeasible. The cost of the
it's
kits.
Too much. It's too expensive to import.
Yeah, import. Yeah, the duty was just too high. The kits were quite reasonably priced, but getting them imported into the Philippines, the duty was just ridiculous. So that sort of like killed that idea. And the only other building product is concrete. As anyone that's been here, and with most Asian countries, they're in love with concrete, and they produce a concrete block.
Hollow blocks, we call it hollow blocks, but it's very, very
soft.
Yeah, soft.
Well,
and you didn't like it?
No, I didn't like it because of the structure of the block you could buy commercially. It was only approximately 4 inches thick, and it's a block about yay big by yay big, but it's only about 4 inches, and they usually build they don't build double brick here, and the style of building they do, I wasn't impressed with. In fact, when we were in Camellia, remember some of the houses we saw being constructed in Camellia Homes. Technically, as far as the builder's concerned, it was horrific. You know, like the
it's low cost.
yeah, it's low cost. It's very hot because the brick absorbs heat and because it's not insulated. Anyway, it just wasn't my cup of tea. And the bricks in the area that we had, and you obviously had to get manufactured bricks. I wasn't young enough and keen enough to make my own bricks, the thousands that were required for a building, so we had to purchase it. And we found that because in the Philippines they try to stretch and make the peso go as far as they possibly can. The bricks were very soft. If you dropped it, it just disintegrated and this type of thing. So anyway, I eliminated brick. Now, taking into account, I had this bit of a love affair going on with what they were doing on Google and on the internet. With first of all, it was what do they got? Tiny houses.
Yeah.
Tiny houses, but that wasn't
And
practical.
to make it the story short, we ended up of the container house.
Yeah. Well, we decided on while I was getting around to that.
You talk too much.
Okay.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
container houses. So,
Yeah, the container house. Yeah. And then I didn't like it because for me it looks like it's new for me. You
Well,
know,
in those days,
Yeah.
no
No
one had container houses.
no one.
So
Here.
I mentioned a container house, and all Jen could see was the thing that fell off the back of a ship. I'm
Yeah.
trying to convince her, no, I can do things with this. So anyway, much to her chagrin, she went along with it because I kind of bulldozed through, and I said, I can do this. But the reality was I'd never built a house. But, in my mind, I was handy. I'd done plenty of internal work and this type of thing. I thought, it can't be that difficult. I've seen tradesmen in our country, and they're not that bright. Sorry, all you tradesmen, well, they're not geniuses. So I thought, it can't be that difficult. And besides, I had YouTube, and YouTube can teach you anything.
The problem with it, okay, you watch on YouTube, and we don't have Wi-Fi there, you know.
Oh, that was another small problem.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And then you went back to Australia while building it, so I was the one who left there alone.
Yeah, well, again, this is what was happening as well, because I wasn't 100% permanently in this country, because I was still employed in Australia.
Working.
So I was working in Australia a number of months, then coming back for a number of months, then going over, etc., etc. So I'd be over here for 3 months, and then away for 2, and then back and forward in the early days when we were living in the Philippines. So I got all enthusiastic, and I had a couple of photos that I wanted to do. And at the end of this video, and we may have to do it in 2 parts because I talk too much, but there'll be the end result. There'll be a series of photos that we've managed to get off our phones and whatever that will show you the end result. We haven't really got too many things, if any, of the actual construction, so we'll have to just explain it to you. So anyway.
Yeah, but the process of building that
The container
house was
horrific.
Like deadly.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the containers themselves. We're 100 or so kilometres, a little bit over 100 kilometres from General Santos, which was the only place where you could get containers. And we rocked up in General Santos and went to the container depots.
Yes.
And remember this, no one had ever bought containers there apart from buying them to transport somewhere, or maybe at best for storage. So we rocked up, and knowing nothing about containers, I'd heard that you get a Highline container, which was, because of my size, I wanted it as big as I could possibly get.
Yeah.
And we went in and we tried to explain to these people we wanted to buy, two containers, 40-foot containers. And
High cube, 40-foot.
yeah, a high cube, which is a foot or so higher than most usual containers. Well, they didn't really know what to charge us, and of course they're not going to undercharge us, so they charged us X amount, and all of a sudden we were the proud owners of 2 of these containers.
Yeah.
The next step was to get the containers from General Santos
From the city to the province.
to the province,
And that place is full of coconut trees.
yeah, and the access to our property is rather winding, and there's coconut trees, hugging the entire area. So me being
You mislook that one, that there is like
Yeah,
this
it's like-
winding road, and then the container is so straight. Oh my God, do you
Well,
remember they have to cut that one?
well, what had happened with one thing at a time. This is the difficulties you have in a place like the Philippines and not knowing what's going on. I knew that in certain areas getting into the place there was coconut trees too close to the road for the truck to get through. So I immediately thought, it doesn't matter, it's a bloody coconut tree, they only get a few bucks, or a few pesos each season. I'll just go to the landowners and, say I want to clear this and I'll pay you to clear it so I can get the container in.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden the coconut tree that was probably worth 5,000 pesos, because I wanted to get rid of it, became 20,000 pesos to get rid of it. So that was impractical. And because no one had really delivered that far out as far as the container was concerned, the transport company sent a reconnoitering crew out to have a look where these containers were going to go. And so we were all waiting for them to come down, and they came in and they said,
Oh my God, when they try to get the container in our place, in our area, they have to have those big stick, bamboo stick,
yeah.
just to pull
Well, all the electrical...
the electrical wiring.
All the wiring, and a lot of you guys have been to Asia, you know what an absolute spaghetti abortion the wiring is here, and it's hanging across the streets and whatever.
Well, we have to pay for that one.
We had to pay for guys with sticks to lift these bloody things up all the way down. So we had a crew of about...
And we broke some wirings too.
Oh yeah, then you've got to pay for that. So it goes on. And then the guy comes down and said, sir, there's no way we can get this thing in here with the trees because we can't angle the truck correctly. So we thought, oh God, we should have bought 4 20-foot containers. So we went back to the container people and they said, oh sir, obviously they've got our money and we want to swap these things over, and then to swap them it was going to be exorbitant. And it had gone from being a cheaper option, the 4 20-foot containers, because we needed them, all of a sudden the price went through the roof. So I got the shits in front of everybody, and I said, oh bugger that, we'll just cut them in half. And everyone looked at me ridiculous. I said,
Oh my God, you always get the shit.
Yeah. So I said,
Ordering the parts,
oh, we're not even up to that yet. But
yeah. Okay,
anyway, I
I'm
cut
sorry.
these bastards in half and threw them on the 20-foot trucks, and that enabled them to get them in. But in the meantime, trying to kill a couple of birds. Well, okay, let's go back to you.
Yeah.
We had to get permission to do all this. You've got to get building permits and this type of thing. And of course, I don't know anything about that.
So I went to the municipality to apply for the building permit and the electric permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had a problem with the electricity.
Yeah.
Well, that came later. When we suggested that we were building a container house, they all looked at her and myself like I had 2 heads. We were maniacs. And to be able to get power on, you've got to have a building permit. And the unfortunate thing was, because it was a new situation, there was no category in the municipality for a container house.
Yes.
So they wouldn't issue us with a building permit because they said it was a temporary structure and whatever. Anyway, cut a long story short, we got around the power situation. We did eventually get power on, but we were out without a building permit. And that wasn't going to stop us. And remember this.
No, they will not issue building permit for us because they said that the container house is a movable house. It's not steady.
Yeah, it's not, not stable.
And then, I asked them, what is that building permit for? Because even if there's no building permit, we will still build the house. And then they said, yes ma'am, but you will not have an insurance. Insurance for what? If there is a fire, so I cannot claim insurance. I said, that's bullshit. I said, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we save money.
Yeah, we actually save money because they calculate the building permit on the footage of the house. And
footage of the house, the plan of the house, they need the blueprint.
Yeah.
And who's the engineer?
Of which we didn't. Yeah, we had to have an engineer And so all these things were coming up. We didn't have an engineer.
I said that we are the engineer, we are the architect.
Yeah.
I am the interior decorator.
Yeah. Jen was becoming the interior decorator to a house that didn't exist at the moment. But anyway, so we didn't have any of these things. We didn't have a plan. I had an idea. I had a couple of photos off the internet the way I wanted to do it. I had no experience. And that's how we started building our major project. So for any of you out there that have got the gonads enough to have a go, this is the place to do it. So anyway, we got the containers on the way, and then I thought, we can't just, if they drop the containers off, they've got to drop them onto something, and then we've got to lift them onto foundations or whatever, because being a beach area, you do have storm surge, and Jen was the one that pointed out, we better raise these things up, because, from time to time there's storm surge and it's going to flood the house out. Well, okay, away we go again. So I got a guy in to put a very basic set of block footings in. And at that stage of the game, all it was a large square, a rectangle type footing. And of course, containers were approximately 8 feet wide, and we only had to, at that stage of the game, put footings in for these 8 foot wide containers. And it was a square. Now, what could possibly go wrong? He finished them, and to the naked eye, when I was looking at these footings that were 3 feet off the ground and solid concrete, probably weighed a tonne apiece, or a couple of tonnes apiece, well, it doesn't look right to me. But I didn't have time to check it because the trucks were virtually rolling down the road.
Oh my God, I cried that time because, oh my God.
Yeah, well, apart from the trucks,
They cannot put the...
all the footings were crooked.
On the footer.
Yeah, the footings were totally crooked. It meant that one of the containers was about 5 feet sitting in front of the next container, so it was staggered. And it's not something you can do because there's no cranes, there's no nothing. So once these guys left, how the hell were we going to get them off the ground and put them back onto the footings? We could have jacked them up with the truck jacks, but it was just virtually impossible. So.
But eventually they
we just plonked them down, put them on there, we'll work something out. And the flexibility of the plan that was in my head, I just had to redesign on the run. So we ended up with 4 20-foot pieces that we had to weld together into, again, 2 40-foot length containers, which we did. And we got a series of welders in and they welded them up, and of course...
we have one welder.
Yeah, well, all we could find was one decent welder.
Yeah, because that time welding is not that
not that popular.
Only on the shipyard.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the shipyard, of course, was in General Santos.
But now everything is.
Now everything's steel. But in those days, we found the only welder, and I wasn't experienced enough to do that type of welding, for the guy to come in. So. And we had one welder to do this entire house.
Assistant.
And of course, everyone's got an assistant here. So we've got a couple of people that we've started this particular project on. And the way we did it, without giving you a plan, is that...
Yeah, the plan is in his head. And then when he go back to Australia...
we won't even get up there yet. But... the plan basically was that the 2 containers are approximate. They were supposed to be 15 feet apart. To give you some idea, the back of the containers were 15 feet apart in the corners. The front of the containers was 16 feet apart. Well, thank God we live in the Philippines, because those small incidental things like an extra foot here and an extra foot there don't mean too much. So, in effect, we had a building that was like that rather than parallel to each other. But anyway, they were on the footings, it was sitting down there, and the idea was to join steel beams up to obviously expand the area underneath the 2 mainstay containers.
25 feet?
No, 16 feet, 16 and 15 feet it ended up being. It wasn't square, but we put it across. And anyway, that was the main shape of the building. Of course, one of the containers juts out and one of them's further back. And... I had to do some canoodling to work
we
it out.
bought all the materials and everything. Yeah, and then after that, he went back to Australia.
Yeah, well, for stage 1,
yeah.
And this is the other thing people got to realise, we're still 100 or so kilometres from anywhere that can supply us with what we required. we've got small hardware stores in Migitum and whatever, but they did not have, and the prices are exorbitant because they're country stuff. So to get anything reasonably priced, we had to go all the way to General Santos and buy off the largest stores. And they had to deliver out, which is all extra cost and whatever. But we were going in and buying, 300,000 pesos at a time worth of stuff to transport out and whatever. But if you forgot something, well, you imagine, if you forget something or it's not on the list or they can't supply it, it just halts everything. I'm going to take a break here. We're going to look at the time because I haven't got my glasses and I can't see what the reading is, and we may have to make this whole thing in
maybe
segments.
It's 25 minutes and 34 seconds. It says there. I can see it.
Okay. Well, we can go a little bit longer. I just don't want to make them over, long videos because everyone gets sick of it and whatever. So, anyway, I gave instructions to Jen, and Jen is sitting there thinking, she cried. How many? You must have cried for a month.
Yeah, of course, because he went back to Australia and he was screaming at me that is wrong. Whatever you said to the people, they should listen to you like that this is what you want, this is what you want. But I don't know if you can relate if you're in the Philippines, if you are a woman, the workers think that I am stupid and dumb, I don't know anything. And then, ma'am, it's wrong. This is the way we do it. No, but my husband is angry at me like that. And the roof. I said, okay, baby, show me the roof. And I showed you the roof and you said, shit.
That is when you have a look at the photos, you'll see this.
And then they welded it already.
And we actually replaced the roof 3 times.
Yes.
Before they got it right.
So I am in the middle of him and the workers. So, oh my God. How am I going to tell this that Philip wants it to down?
Anyway, I just said go up to them. Actually, I told you to get one of your brothers to go and tell them.
And the carpenters here are very, they're very resilient. Like
the carpenters,
if they want to, this is the way we do it, they will do it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have engineer. The plan is in his head, and then when he go back to Australia, so they said, Madam, where is the plan, the drawing? I said, it's in the head of my husband. It's there,
Well, anyway.
Oh my God.
It was
so
there.
how? Yeah, you look at the YouTube. How will you look at the YouTube? Baby, you draw. He draw in a piece of paper.
What did we tell the viewers we didn't have? We had very sketchy Wi-Fi. Like it's called peso Wi-Fi out here. You put a couple of pesos in and you get a day's worth of Wi-Fi.
Baby, we don't have even a piece of Wi-Fi.
Not in those days.
Yes, we have.
We had to climb a coconut tree. We had to climb a coconut tree to pick up both phone and whatever internet we could possibly pick up off a load. And things like we had to get as high as and if the weather was wrong. Anyway, everyone's saying, what a maniac, but as bad as it was to overcome all this, we had a lot of fun. Well, I had a lot of fun. I don't think Jen had too much fun.
It's a complicated life.
Yeah.
That's why we always wanted to do this and this. And I told him, no, just do that. No, we have to be like, what is this? Always challenging. She likes challenging. And I said to oh my God, oh shit, I'm in trouble again because I'm the one who's going to, to translate, to talk to the people and everything, deal with everything.
Well, the other thing was too, that her idea of a house, unlike mine, was this little tiny thing, probably similar to what we're living in now.
Yeah, because I'm the one who will clean it.
So she wanted this tiny thing. Well, I'm 6'2".
And then we are living in the middle of nowhere. I said, oh my God. Anyway, I was happy at the end.
Yeah, at the end she was. But my thinking was, I'm 6'2", and I don't want to live in this this little tiny bloody humpy somewhere, even though it's made of brick and whatever. It's just too small. I wasn't used to something like that.
It was so frustrating because this is the first time they will build a house like that, like a container house. In Maintum, in the middle of nowhere, that no one understands. They don't even know. They were even laughing at you when you said, I want to screw. We don't use screw.
Yeah.
We use nails.
Nuts and bolts and screws.
Yeah.
And meat. Look, this is not generic. This is not all over the Philippines. This just happened to be where we were.
Where we were, yes.
Which is a little bit more primitive, simply because we're out in like the boonies. So anyway, I wanted everything screwed down. I wanted everything bolted down. I wanted everything welded, and of course they're looking at me like I'm insane. Why would you go to the expensive screws and things like that? And I understood why.
The screw was expensive.
And the screws were expensive, and they were shit. Like the screws were soft because they were Chinese screws, and you'd screw them on, the heads would come off, and then you've got to source other screws. Everything was difficult. And the other thing that makes it difficult is I'm trying to explain what I want to Jen, and right down to, as an example, we call a little star screwdriver a Phillips head. Now, I think they do in the States and whatever, or a shifter or whatever. I'm trying to explain it to her. They don't call them those names in the Philippines. So I'm saying I need a series of Phillips head screwdrivers or bits or whatever. None of the names that I was used to, I'm trying to explain to her what I want to explain to people. She learned.
I learned a lot. I almost memorized all the names of the steels and the numbers. All this shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Really, I was crying, and I told him when he said that take off the roof, and I said you better come back here. I cannot do this anymore.
Okay, so I got in a plane and I went back, and on we went. Then the next thing, here I've got a steel structure. Little things like we got an electrician in, and a lot of these guys are self-taught, but that's all you can get hold of. And now I can do most things, but electricity scares the living crap out of me, so I don't touch it. If I can't see it, I can't understand it. And electricity is one of those things. So I got an electrician in, and being a steel house, I said, look, I want everything in PVC pipe all the way through this, so insulate between. Because if you ground out in a steel home, you're going to have blue sparks out your ass. Like I wanted to make it as safe as I possibly could. He couldn't understand the added expense. When you go to these things, they just think you're an absolute nutter spending extra money when you don't have to. They don't realise that these safety procedures, the plumbing that I want, which is oversized, all this.
The walling.
Gyprock. They never.
We don't know about gyprocks.
Which in the States is drywall. No one had even seen a sheet of drywall.
No, because normally we use for the door plywood, marine ply,
and things like that. And I wanted gyprock, and I want drywall. And so I had to teach them how to do drywall and then do the seams. And so we had to teach all the labourers everything. So it was a learning process. And of course,
but the carpenters were
the carpenters were great blokes.
Yes.
The problem is with Filipino workers that we found at that particular time, like the carpenters and all the labourers, they will say yes sir, no sir, we'll do that. And whilst ever you're standing there, they'll do exactly what you want. Now, there's a number of jobs going on. So as soon as you turn your back and you go into it, they revert straight back to what they know. And that's what happens. So it becomes a problem. So it's one of these things, the management type situation here, you've got to manage, you've got to oversee all the time, because the gyprock was one of them. We went and bought the only insulation.
But no, because the people, you are foreigner and we are Filipino. So they are stressed, you are...
I'm stressed, they're stressed.
Yeah, you pressure them, Oh my God, you pressure everyone.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is they don't handle pressure well.
And
so they run away.
I can understand, because I've been exposed with the Western. They want things to be done like that, know. Oh my God, the Philippines, no. You have to,
Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to stop now and come back to part 2 later about the building. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of stress. We got basically what we wanted, and you'll see that in the second half, and we'll show you some photos and whatever. So for now, subscribe. Tune in for the second part of the video when we talk about it, which is just to encapsulate. We've got the standing structure up at the moment. We've got the roof on it at last after 3 attempts, and the building is sitting there as a shell, and we've got plumbing to go, and we've got the normal interiors. We're starting on gyprock and things like that. And we'll tell you the disaster that was the finishing of that place. But anyway, tune in, subscribe, ring the bell, and we'll come back with part 2. Cheers for now. Say goodbye, Dale.
Bye-bye.